Hey, everybody, and welcome to, I guess, what you would call the penultimate, if that's the word I can pronounce it, Game of Thrones, Gabbing About Got. And tonight we are talking about what is basically the trash fire episode. I've dubbed it that. Um, I've been supporting this show and some of the decisions and writing that has gone on in it, but I tell you what, tonight it became a clusterfuck of epic proportions, and I'm going to tell you why I think so. We did get Clegane Bowl. That was epic and amazing and something we had waited a very freaking long time for. And it went down exactly as my husband predicted and as I predicted. As we watched it, we were cheering. It was fantastic. And I screamed, "This is for Slutty Prince," as it all went down, and it went down amazingly. That is the only part of this episode that I can say went down amazingly. Dany's spiral into being the Mad Queen should have been happening for a long time. It should not have been rushed for this season as it has been. It has turned into a cluster. This was just such a quick turnaround because they're rushing to finish the season and the series. It made this twist. We knew it was coming, but Jesus Christ. I mean, seriously, that was just a lot. The other thing that is probably the biggest horrible misstep and awful thing to happen in this series and the entire series is Jaime Lannister. And the reason I am saying that is because there is no redemption arc for this man. We spent this entire length of time, this entire series, watching him become a good man, at least somewhat. And it was supposed, this was a redemption arc. We were supposed to get that with him. And instead, what we got was he went back to save her. Instead of what we were supposed to get, which was, you redeem yourself by killing your sister, who is a crazy bitch. And she is. You've admitted it. You admitted it to Brienne. You had this beautiful arc with Brienne, and it was for dick all nothing. It was for nothing. We stuck with this character. We had all these Jaime Lannister people out there, myself included, thinking that he was fantastic, and we were all Team Jaime, and it was for nothing. It's a disservice to that character and us as fans who have invested all this time to have it go down like this. It was stupid. It was a waste. It was a waste of what could have been a beautiful story. And instead, because for some reason, much like Walking Dead, Misery and Emo have to be the queen and king of this show. And as much as I get like killing Ned Stark in the very first season and showing that, yeah, this isn't your dad's, sword and sorcery epic. This isn't going to be typical. At the same time, there is good storytelling. And for it to fall as flat as it did and just go, okay, they're going to die together, and there's no redemption here at all. There's no real drama. You've wasted this opportunity with a character like this. We have them die in a pit. Cersei deserved to go out by someone's hand that either loved her best or hated her the worst. I would have been okay with Arya, more so, even though Arya already did her thing with the Night King. I would have been more okay with Arya taking her out than what happened, because it made no sense. This was just flat and worthless. And then there was the whole, as we watched this, the whole thing with Euron was Euron, or however you want to shit and say it. Him looking at the camera and saying, I'm the man that killed Jaime Lannister. What was the point of that? There was no point. He should have died on the water with Yara coming and kicking his ass. That made no sense. There was no sense there. There was no, dramatic moment. It just made no sense. The Clegane Bowl 2019 was an arc. That was a beautiful arc. That was the way that should have went. And those scenes with the Hound and Arya were brilliant. I loved how they made her look like the little girl she was. For those few shots, they had her look like a little girl again. They had her look like she did when they first met. And that's how he always saw her. And she used his first name instead of calling him the Hound or Clegane. She called him Sandor. That is an arc. Where was that with the rest of this? Varys was a waste. I mean, that was like a waste, really. I mean, there was no point of that. His death meant nothing in the end. Then you had Tyrion still trying to save his brother and at the own risk of his own life to get them out of there. And that was, I thought, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, Jaime's going to go for the bells. He's going to save the people. No, he went right for Cersei. And are we supposed to go with the fact that, he died the way he wanted to with her? No, it just was a waste. I can't believe how angry I am about how stupid that is, because it taints the entire series. That should have been the death of Cersei by Jaime's remaining hand. And instead we got a cave-in on top of them. And it was stupid. We're not rooting for these two. We knew that she was going to go down, but it should have been by Jaime's hand. It would have been worth it at that point. But instead, for some reason, this show is just ratcheting the time. We spent so many minutes watching this destruction of King's Landing and these slow-mo freaking dragon deaths and these battles, and seeing Grey Worm be a lunatic on the battlefield, and Jon realizing, oh yeah, I'm a dumbass. I should have listened. Oh yeah, she's a crazy bitch. We saw this coming. Once again, we could have gotten a really neat shot or something to show Jon could, if Dany had really lost her mind and Jon got caught in a dragon attack, we could have seen him survive the fire because he's a goddamn Targaryen. But we didn't even get that. I wanted that the last one. We could have got that in the Battle of Winterfell, but we didn't get that there either, which I thought was stupid. You had a great opportunity for him to really embrace that Targaryen, I guess. But instead, we get Jaime Lannister not getting any sort of resolution. He's still an asshole. Euron and him fighting. Didn't give a shit at that point because you could tell he was going for Cersei. He wasn't going to ring the bells. I don't know who the shit rung the bells. Who rung the bells? We don't know. Some poor bastard that got blown up, I guess. It was really drawn out and long. That episode was like an hour and a half again because they're having to ramp it up so much. And it was a waste. It was a trash fire. This, I've been supporting the show and doing these gabbing about gots, and I've been on board with it. And this is the moment I've really realized, I guess, I always knew it was trash. We always knew it was trashy. It's trashy, fantasy, epic, which I embraced it for that because we still had some entertaining spots. We had some entertaining stories. We had great characters and great actors playing in it. But this episode was so stupid. It really was. This is the moment, where were the sharks out in the water? Because this is when it really jumped it, I guess. Because you wasted two fantastic characters who you could have ended it in such a way with them. It would have been a great, beautiful ending. And instead, they're in a cave-in. Maybe they're dead. Maybe they survived it. Wouldn't that be a kick in the head at this point? But I just could not. No. And then the entire thing with Arya being caught in the whole of getting it from her perspective, I guess. That whole thing, and her finding this pale horse, which now has a pale rider on it. Is she supposed to be death? That's, I mean, really, are we going to that level with the metaphor here? We're gonna go there with it. So is she the one that's going to be taking down Dany, or is it going to be Jon? I mean, that's what I've always thought, but God, no, who knows now? Who knows now with this show, because it's so fucking stupid. This is bad writing. I mean, I get my husband went on a beautiful rant a few minutes before I came on here. And he is exactly right, and I agree with him 100%. You know, there's a place for downer content and things, where there's no happy ending. But at some point you have to say, where do I draw the line on downer story? Where do I draw the line on the emo? Am I trying to be so miserable and show you the brutal reality of this? Well, that's not what I am here for. I get that it's the emo cousin of Lord of the Rings, etc. We even killed Boromir in the first season. But like my husband eloquently put, you have these uplifting moments in the middle of bad that are the reason you get into this, and you watch it for these redemptive stories, and you want to see something good. And here, this is just miserable shit. And it would have, it would still have been sad for Jaime to die and Cersei to die by his hand, because we know how much she meant to him. But that's a story of a character. There was no journey in the end for Jaime, just a really long, drawn out Manos, the Hands of Fate driving sequence is what this became. Because in the end, he ended up right back where he was at the beginning. A dick who didn't save anybody but his bitch of a sister. And in the end, that didn't even save him either. Nothing was saved. And Cersei, Cersei was great. But were we supposed to be sympathetic to her at that point? Because I'm not. She's an asshole. And she's always been an asshole. But were we supposed to care? Because I didn't care at that point when I realized that he still was all about Cersei. After everything that happened to him, that he had happened with Brienne, the only one in this show, other than Tyrion, who I'm not feeling so great about right now because he still helped Jaime, but I get it. That was a beautiful scene with the two of them. Don't get me wrong. I get Tyrion at this point, but at the same time, it's like, fuck, it was worthless. What you did was worthless. The only one with the common sense to know when to walk away was Bronn. Bronn wins this whole thing, not being on the throne, but he gets what he always wanted. That's fantastic, because he's always been true to his character. And he's the only one that has been, really, other than Tyrion. But, man, this was so ridiculously stupid. And Daenerys, the Mad Queen, I mean, we saw it coming, but it's only been coming, really, in the last season. This season, we ramped up the crazy Targaryen line on her. Major. And I mean, trash fire. There was a lot of fire in this episode, and it was all a trash fire. And I'm really, I'm watching this next week. I'm watching the finale because we've gone this long with it. But at this point, with what they did tonight, with this, what was supposed, the story is just, it's been not great, which, I've had my quibbles with it, but this was so stupid. So fucking stupid that it's tainted everything up to this point now. It really has. I mean, we followed this journey of Cersei and Jaime, and we were robbed a conclusion that really made sense. Instead, it was just anticlimactic crap and dumb, and there was no journey. It was the Manos, the Hands of Fate driving sequence. It led to nowhere for a long time. And that's not okay. That's not how you create a beautiful story and a beautiful show, even with all the massive special effects that you have and all the great acting that you can get in it, the great actors that you have in it. If you don't have a decent story at the end of the day, at the end of the journey that makes sense, then you've lost. And while I know there are people out there that are live or die, Game of Thrones, this was so good, this was so good. You need to pull yourself back a little bit and really look at it and ask yourself, where did Jaime's journey lead him? Right back to where he started. And that's not a journey. That's just a circle. And it's not a good circle. It's not he learned nothing. He could have broke free from this. There was really no arc. All of the things that he went through, I guess you could say, well, there was no redemption. He even said it. But at the end of the day, is that what you want? Do you not want your characters to grow? Do you not want your characters to learn something? Have you learned something with them? That Cersei's, the JJ's really just that good? I mean, what? It just makes no sense. There is no journey. And that taints that whole thing. It makes the whole storyline with Brienne nothing. There was nothing. And I'm sorry, Brienne of Tarth deserves more than nothing in this. That whole storyline was nothing now. Meant nothing. And that's not right. I don't like that. I like Brienne. She deserved to be happy. And this just was a waste. It was a waste. And that sucks. So, yes, I'll watch the last episode, but if this is how it's going down and we're going to see other characters end up like that, then boy, that just sucks. That makes no sense. It's just as big of a waste. I mean, the Dorne storyline I thought was going to be the biggest bullshit waste of this whole series. And I'm pissed about that. And a lot of other people are too. Oberyn Martell was one of the best things to come out of this. That whole storyline should have been better than it was. We got hardly any time in Dorne and it was pointless. It was pointless. And this is even more pointless, what happened tonight. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of Game of Thrones. I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. I know I take it for what it is, but I am not a fan of bad, crappy storytelling that is wasteful to not only the series and the characters and the viewers. I'm not a fan of that. And just churning this out as quickly as possible without really any thought, trying to get it done in time to make the cutoff or whatever is the reason for this is BS. And, really HBO, you're going to make it rain into this series and give it all this funding, but you're not going to take the time to do a story arc and stories that make sense. It doesn't matter how shiny it is. if it's crap underneath in terms of a story, it's still crap. It's really expensive crap. So, yeah, I'm not happy. Clegane Bowl rocked. God, yeah, Clegane. That was amazing. That was so freaking good. Why couldn't the rest of it be like that? Makes no sense. No sense. So there you go, Game of Thrones. The Trash Fire episode it burned through a lot of things, including my respect for a lot of the show, because that I had, because this was stupid. This was just flat out stupid. And yeah, that's my thoughts. I am a little angry tonight because of it, because I really wanted to see something. I wanted that arc to happen, and a good arc, and instead nothing happened. And we just got a lot of people being fried to death, and at least we could see it, I guess. I guess that's one thing to say, is that we could see what happened. But when you can, even if it's as you can see it and nothing's really happening, it's really still nothing happening. And like I said, hello, viewer. Like I said, oh, they ran away. I scared them off with my anger. Like I said, it's still nothing happened. And that's a disservice to the fans. It's a disservice to the character. It's a disservice to the story. It deserved better. Jamie deserved the arc that we had been built up to have with him. And having an arc and learning and becoming better as a character and being redeemed isn't a bad thing. And in a world where we live in right now, we really kind of need we really need that kind of story. Yeah, we really kind of do. So, yeah, Game of Thrones, Trash Fire. Hi, viewer. I keep scaring these people off when they show up to watch this. But yeah, tonight's episode of Game of Thrones was the massive trash fire of doom, I guess. Clegane Bowl happened. We can say that. Arya rode off on a horsey. Maybe she'll find her direwolf, who's still alive, by the way. Ghost isn't the last one. But yeah, Jaime Lannister did nothing. That's his tombstone now. Jaime Lannister learned nothing. Jaime Lannister did nothing. Cersei had, she was a bitch, and she died that way, I guess. I don't know. I guess we were supposed to feel bad for her, and I don't know why you would think that would happen at this point. But yeah, so there you go. Game of Thrones, the trash fire, which is not just this episode now, but has spread throughout the rest of the seasons, because we ended up here with all of that. So there you go. That's my thoughts. Sorry if you don't agree with me. If you don't agree with me, please say something in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Were you disappointed with it? Did you not like it? Did you like it? Why did you like it? What was there about this episode that made you go, yeah, that was awesome? This was what I was waiting for. Please tell me. Change my mind. But yeah, and subscribe, follow us, because I'll be doing more of these. I'll have one upcoming as well for the new series. There will be a video possibly on Monday for Nosferatu, because the embargo is off at that point, and I can talk about it because I've watched a few episodes of that now. And Good Omens as well will be coming up. I'm still under embargo, I think, for that for a few more days. But yeah, I will be back with that. And of course, the final episode of Game of Thrones, I will be back for that as well. So feel free to subscribe. Let me know, as I said, down in the comments. I guess I'm pointing the right way. Why you like this episode. Am I wrong? Do you agree with me? Let me know. Talk to you soon. Bye.